So a couple of things that I need you guys to remember and think about when we're talking about lines in general is that we can have vertical and horizontal lines when we're going through and writing equations, and we need to be able to think about really what do those equations look like and how do I recognize what they are. And I put down a couple of little pieces that I need you guys to think about and really reflect upon. And so the first couple are the ones that I'm about to point out to you. We're going to talk about vertical lines first. Guys, these types of lines are ones that go straight up and down. They are vertical. And I want you to remember in our discussions in class that we realize that these types of lines have slopes that are undefined. They're going up to infinity and down to infinity at the same time, and then there's no run, so I would be dividing by 0 and the x values, and none of that's good. For horizontal lines, what we're dealing with is lines that are going straight side to side, like the horizon. Slopes that do this don't go up or down, so their slope is defined as having a slope of 0. And so we're going to keep all of these little pieces in mind as we go through and try and come up with the equations for our straight lines. If I'm given 2 points, I am still going to use my slope formula, and I have that circled in green at the top of the page, that m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, and I'm going to use it the same way I would normally do it for any other line. If I go through and plug this in, I'm going to start off with an x1 and a y1, x2, y2, and drop everything into my equation and take a look and see what I get. So my y2 is 6, and my y1 is 6, my x2 is 4, and my x1 is 2, and what I end up with is 0 divided by 2, which is a slope of 0. Well, we literally just said that if we have a slope that is equal to 0, that means that we have a horizontal line. Okay, so let's take a look and think back what we know about horizontal lines. If I'm looking at a horizontal line, I know that there's my x and my y-axis, and I'm going to have some line that beams through there, but it's going to be at just straight side to side. I'm not going to ever touch my x-axis, it's just going to go through like that. Guys, I don't know if you remember this, but the way that we look at equations for our horizontal lines is I really just look to see where it crosses my xy coordinate grid, and it's only ever going to cross at a y. And if you notice, the y value for both of the points that we had is the same y. Well, that's because that's the only y value it can be. For horizontal lines, our equations are always going to be y equals something, and it's always going to be the same something. So I just take the y value off of the 2 points that I have, and that is going to be my equation. I mean, think about it. It's that easy. If I'm looking at the other set of points that I have here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm still going to do x1 and y1 and x2 and y2 and use those pieces of information to find my slope. In this case, I'll have a negative 2 minus a 6 on top. That's going to be divided by a 2 minus a 2 on the bottom. And in this case, a negative 2 minus 6 more is a negative 8. A 2 minus 2 is a 0, and I can't define anything that's being divided by 0, so this is an undefined slope. Well, okay, so just what we said a second ago. We know that all of the lines that have slopes that are undefined are vertical lines. That means that whatever points I have here, if I was trying to write an equation for it, it's going to be a vertical line. Okay, so again, just like we did in the last one, well, let's just take a look at what that is here. If I have some xy coordinate grid, and I'm just sketching this out, my vertical lines are going to be ones that go straight up and down. And the way that we write equations for those vertical lines is we really just look for the spot where it crosses my xy coordinate grid, and it only ever touches at x. So my equation is just going to be an x equals equation. Well, the x part of both of the points is the same because that's the only x that it can be for the whole line. It's that x, which means that if that's the x value on those 2 points, then that's the x that I'm going to use to write my equation. The line for this has to be x equals 2. I hope that helps you remember some things about vertical and horizontal lines. Good luck studying for your test.